Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of The Log Show here on YouTube. I am your host, Logan Likeb, ready for another great episode as we have so much major news across the whole entire NFL. Jackson Dart has been announced the starter down or up there over in New York for the New York Giants this week, going into a game against the Chargers here in week 4. So we have that. Not only that, we have a huge Monday night battle where the Detroit Lions get a gigantic win against the Baltimore Ravens in a battle that many believe could possibly be the Super Bowl maybe there's a different matchup there, but two very heavyweight teams there battle it out on Monday night. The Yankees clinched last night. The Mets are falling apart, and so much more to talk about, and I can't wait to get to talk about all of it. I mean, obviously, I feel like I have to start the day with Jackson Dart, no? I feel like that's the obvious big news that we have to talk about here. Is the one, the only Jackson Dart down there in New York being announced as the starter after the Giants suffer a 22-9 loss on Sunday Night Football. And in that loss, I mean, we saw a lot of bad things out of Russell Wilson and just the energy in New York. It seemed like an inevitable decision that after that red zone skerfuffle, I guess you could call what happened there at the end of the game with Russell Wilson, that it didn't seem that there was going to be much other option. Obviously, being 0-3, you look at the way the Giants have been over the past couple of years. You have the Daniel Jones contract, what happens with Saquon. All of that goes down, and you can't help but look at this decision after 0-3, after, like I said, some tough losses. You look great against the Cowboys defense that many are talking about now is just letting everybody walk all over them. They let the Bears walk all over them this week. They let the Giants do it the week before. So many thought that maybe week 2 was, Russell Wilson was showing flashes. I was one of those people who definitely thought that, in this week, Russell Wilson is showing so many flashes of the old Russ, and Russ is back. I said it. And then he looked absolutely terrible against the Chiefs defense that is not the same Chiefs. We clearly saw that on Sunday, that they weren't the same Chiefs. But nonetheless, that leads to the decision of Jackson Dart. And how do I feel about that? It's interesting. I don't know. Because like I did just say, it was obvious it was going to happen now. But you look at the Giants' schedule and how they're playing and how the Giants really have looked, and you look at their future schedule. Right now, they have the Chargers coming up, which is a very interesting situation with that, because this is a Chargers defense that's very, very, very... maybe I put a little too many varies there, but they're an extremely good Chargers defense that's ranked top 10 in many, many, many stats among the whole league. They're top 5 in scoring. They're top 10 in rushing yards, top 10 in passing yards. It's a defense that's been very good over the past couple of years. I mean, you don't have Khalil Mack, if I remember correctly, as of right now. You have Khalil Mack, who is injured. But besides that, you have a Chargers defense that is very, very, very good, now playing against a rookie quarterback who, yes, has shown flashes. I can't deny that 110% Jackson Dart has shown these flashes of this quarterback that the Giants need him to be in preseason against backups, but we haven't seen it for real yet at all. And you have a Giants defense or a Giants offensive line here that is really struggling. They've given up a lot of sacks this year. Chargers defense that has 7 sacks, has 3 turnovers. But you have the Giants, for example. This is a team that, it's a team that's allowed 51 QB pressures. They've allowed 7 or 8 sacks of their own this year. They have a pressure rate of over 40%. It's just an O-line that has been struggling immensely this year. Outside of the game against the Cowboys, you saw Russ have absolutely no time, someone in his face consistently, and that's just not going to be good for the development of Jackson Dart, in my opinion. And like I said, you go back to the schedule of the Giants have this gauntlet of a schedule where they have this, I mean, they have a really good division. You know what I mean? You have the Cowboys being your worst opponent in your division, which is a tough matchup for the Giants as of right now. Not only that, you have the Eagles, who are absolutely dominating every team they've played so far this year. Except for the Rams this week, it wasn't domination, but it was a second half domination for the Philadelphia Eagles this week. And you have Washington, who's very young and coming into their own here in the NFC East. So it's a very tough division for the New York Giants here. Not only that, like I said, you have this gauntlet of a schedule. And yes, did Russ play bad last week? And it's rough. 110% Russ played bad last week. But also, I think when you look at your schedule, you could play this right if you're Dable, if you really want to get Dart in there, because you feel like that's what you need to do to save your job, is put Dart in. Because that's, like I said, that's clearly the decision Dable is making here. He's making a decision to save your job. So my thought is here is you're going into this defense like a Chargers defense that has a very good potential of making Jackson Dart look silly under pressure. Where if you waited a week, you had the Saints. You had a couple games to have that break of where you could make Jackson Dart look really good and give him an easier opponent than a Los Angeles Chargers team that's absolutely on fire right now. Yes, they weren't supposed to be good. Obviously, the Giants weren't supposed to be good this year. But you have this situation where you have a quarterback that's a veteran quarterback on a one-year deal. There's no repercussion in keeping Russ in for another week. Now, I think it was a weird decision to keep, like, you have that. Like, people feel like it was weird to keep him in for the rest of that game. People feel like it was weird to do, that was where I feel like to keep Russ in for the rest of that game is where Dable made that full decision that the decision is going to be made based off how it looks on him as well. He wants to keep his job, obviously. I can't knock the man for wanting to keep his job. But I feel like behind this O-line, you're tossing a kid who's not ready yet in way too early. You have a young quarterback who you told, hey, we're going to bench you all year. Be prepared, but you don't have to necessarily expect to play so far this year. And not only does he end up playing this year, he's playing 4 weeks into the year where he, as Jackson Dart, is going to have this immense amount of pressure to have success because now you're coming in for Kurt Warner, who's not playing well. Or not Kurt Warner, sorry, I was comparing this to Eli in my head. That's why I just said Kurt Warner. But because you're coming in for a Russell Wilson who's not playing well. Yes, you have situations, this is where I was getting to why I just said Kurt Warner. You have situations in the Giants' history where you looked at like Kurt Warner. But, if I remember correctly, Eli didn't play that year until like week 10 is when he stepped in because of a Warner injury, and Kurt Warner wasn't playing well for the Giants that year. They had like 3 or 4 wins at that point that season. He wasn't necessarily playing well, but there's a step up in the NFL game to the college game. If anybody's gone back and looked at the videos, the pre-draft videos of Jackson Dart, when he talked to John Gruden, his snap cadence was this. That was his college snap cadence. And yes, now he's been in the NFL for a few months. And like I said, he looked pretty good in a simplified offense against simplified defenses that were playing backups in the preseason. But I don't know if it's time to I won't say jump the gun, but I don't know if it's time to play him yet. I think, like I've said this many times about Dart and with this Dart situation, and you look back and in the in the chat here, Joe, you bring up Green Bay, and that's a great example that I'm going to bring up too with Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes, and you don't have a lot of quarterbacks that are these top tier quarterbacks right now that jumped in. It's Josh Allen started from day one. but he was a project. If you look back at those early 2 Allen years, those first 2 Josh Allen years, he was a project. You have Joe Burrow, who's been nothing but injured behind an O-line. Besides that, you have Lamar, who was drafted and did not start right away. He was a backup for Joe Flacco for a year. Many forget that. Lamar Jackson did not start his first year in the NFL until week 7 or until the last week of the season. You have Patrick Mahomes, who did not start his first season in the NFL. You have Jalen Hurts, who did not start his first season in the NFL. You look around, you have Daniel Jones going off in a new system because the first system when he first started in the NFL did not work. Like, you always look at it in those quarterbacks that the quarterbacks that had the talent, like people said about Daniel Jones and all this, they need to get to a second system because they're thrown in too early in these places, and they end up in systems that are ready for them and spend the money on them. You have the situation with Jackson Dart where you had the room to wait. Even though you still started 0-3, everybody knows you had this gauntlet of a schedule. You had time to wait. The noise just got super loud. The noise was getting loud, don't get me wrong, and I understand the argument of why delay the inevitable if you're going to end up playing him, play him as early as possible. I understand that argument, but I don't know if it's right behind the surrounding cast he has in New York right now. He's not going to have time to be able to get through his reads and really think about what he's doing behind an O-line that's struggling like it is in New York, a defense that's not elite like it is in New York. New York has been giving up absolute big plays left and right defensively. You have Paulson Adebo not playing well. You have that slot corner, I'm forgetting his name, who has more yards given up, yards allowed than he has stopped this year in the slot. You got you have other options, and yes, like you it's weird. I don't know. Because I see the whole they need to save their jobs thing, but and I don't disagree with that, but I think if you're making a decision to save your job, you can also look at the schedule and make a smarter decision to save your job. And if you're going to make the decision to save your job, you do it against the Saints. You don't do it against the Chargers. Yeah, you run the risk of Russell Wilson playing well against the Chargers, but that's a risk obviously you're willing to take. Because if Russell Wilson plays well for a week, you give yourself an extra week of room if Jackson Dart's starting. So I understand the point of, yes, obviously Dable is making this decision to save his job. And I know the reason to make this decision to save your job. But there's one more, like, I don't think Mara or Joe Shane or anyone there is going to make the brash decision of firing Dable in week 4. I don't think that was going to happen even if they fell to 0-4. I don't think, the decision of them firing him in it can't get worse. Exactly what you just said in the chat. It can't get worse. It cannot get worse than what it is right now. So why not give it another week to see if it gets a little better? Because if it stays the same, you have an opportunity for Jackson Dart. Like I said, you see the flag on my desk. You see the jersey over my head. I'm a diehard Saints fan. And I'll sit here and say you had the opportunity to play Jackson Dart against a team that many call the worst in the league right now. And from the way I saw them play last week against the Seattle Seahawks, the defense can get ripped apart by anybody if you run a simple offense. The Seahawks didn't do anything special against the Saints last week, and they were up 35-3 by the end of the first quarter. And they weren't running this complicated Ben Johnson offense with flips and tricks. No. You need patience. And the noise just got loud enough where you had the room that, yes, obviously. Now I say this, as much as I think that Dart should have sat for as long as possible, and you are doing the whole as long as possible thing, or you at least feel like you are to try to save your job, I think if you sat there and looked at the schedule, you could have made a very, very, very smart decision that I think everybody here who looks at this decision of Jackson Dart can say that it would have been a smarter decision to wait the week. You know, Derwin James might lock up Malik Neighbors like was last week against the Chiefs. Malik Neighbors was absent in that game. If you don't get the help of Malik Neighbors against the Chargers defense for Jackson Dart, like I said, a Chargers defense that's 10th in the league in passing, that has 3 interceptions already this year, that has 7 sacks so far in 3 games, it's going to be tough. And not only that, you also have Scatabo needing to start now. Now, don't get me wrong, he's impressed me. Scatabo looks amazing. He looks like the running back that the Giants have very much wanted him to be. Scatabo looks absolutely amazing. But you need the help. And the help would have been playing a bad team, not throwing him in against the Chargers at home. That's another thing that makes me feel like it's such a coach's decision and not the smartest decision for the football team. And it's Dable saving his job. Is he sat there and got booed on Sunday Night Football, and now it's another home game. You don't want to start Dart on the road against the Saints because it's not at home. You want that first start to be at home. It's I don't know, man. It's a weird situation. It's a really weird situation. It's weird. I think I don't want to keep saying it's weird. I feel like I'm just using that as filler words if I'm being honest. I obviously know how I feel about it. I feel like it was just too early. It was very early. I say very early, but like I've been saying, obviously Dable needed to make a choice to save his job. There was 2 ways Dable saves his job. And it was have a good year with Russell Wilson or end up playing Dart and seeing what happens. And if Dart plays well, he'll play. It'll save Dable's job, or it'll at least extend him another year. Is what many think. Is what Dable clearly thinks about the whole situation. You know, him and Joe Shane are trying to save their jobs at the end of the day. But when you look at that, it's hard. It's really hard for them to do this. I feel it's very hard for this decision to have been made. You know, I think it's very weird that this decision was made this week of all weeks when you're playing the Chargers. I think Dable could have easily looked at the schedule and said, taken a deep breath and go, all right, I'm giving Russ a week. I'm giving Russ one more week because I'll ease my young quarterback in then at least. At least I'll ease Jackson Dart in against the New Orleans Saints. Instead of throwing him in the fire against a Chiefs team, or not a Chargers team, a Chargers team that made Patrick Mahomes look silly, that made everyone really that they've played. They made Bo Nix look silly. They've made everyone that they've played so far look absolutely silly, this Chargers defense. So you look at that and you're throwing Dart into the fire when you could have waited a week and just eased the kid in against the New Orleans Saints, a team that the secondary's been struggling, the D-line's been struggling, the offense is struggling. Dart could have looked amazing against the Saints, and still can. Don't get me wrong; he can look okay against the Chargers, keep the spot, and play well against the Saints. But the problem you have now throwing him against the Chargers, if he looks bad, do you bench him against the Saints? That's the question. That's the hard part you have here. It's a hard situation. It really is. It's a rough one. And it's an inevitable decision, but it was one that had to be made, and they made it this week. And I don't know what everyone else thinks. I don't know what you guys think. Please let me know, Giants fans. Please let me know what Giants fans think, because I know Giants fans are very split on this from what I've talked to and what I've heard. So please let me know what you think, Giants fans. Please let me know. They do. They do have a great running back, the Chargers, but so do the Giants. They both have great young running backs that have opportunities because the starters got injured. On one side, you have Scadaboo having a great opportunity with Tyrone Tracy out 2 to 4 weeks with a shoulder injury. And on the other side, you have Omari and Hampton with a great opportunity now with Dobbins out for the year. So you have not Dobbins, I apologize, with Najee Harris out for the year. So you have two young running backs with immense opportunity, two of the top running back in the drafts, and who knows? Who knows? This is the time where this is Daboll's career right here. In all honesty, it really is. If Dart comes out here and looks bad against the Chargers and gets hit 5 times and throws 150 yards with an interception and is sacked 5-6 times, no touchdowns, and the Giants lose, 24-3, it's gonna be a hit on his confidence, and it's gonna be rough to get him back from that. That's why I think he should have played him against the Saints, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I mean, yeah, does it all go down to coaching 110%? That's football. Coaching is a huge part of football. Game planning is a huge part of football at the end of the day. But, I think I've seen a weird transition in Daboll where Daboll seemed very conservative in his early years, and he's lost that conservativeness. That's the word I was thinking of. He's lost that conservativeness that he had with Daniel Jones and all these guys, and it's a lot. I was actually just about to talk about that, Joe. So it's funny you bring that up. I was just about to get into last week. I was going to start with the Ravens-Lions game on Monday night, but if you want to bring up the blocked field goals, I'll 100% start with that. That was absolutely crazy. 4 blocked field goals in a weekend is just absolutely insane. 2 of them on the same game. 2 of them game-winning as well, with the Browns getting that one over the Packers. You get that one that sets up the game-winning field goal in a very big upset win for the Browns there, one that not a lot of people explained. Not only that, expected, not explained, sorry. Not only that, you have 2 in the Eagles-Rams game. You have the one earlier, and then you get the one by Jalen Carter at the end of the game where he absolutely, he just buries through that guard. I saw a lot of people on the internet with the Jalen Carter one, so this is interesting when you see stuff like this, because you can kind of see how football has changed, who has played football, stuff like that. But, you have this really interesting situation with the Jalen Carter one where I saw people blaming the long snapper, but really it's 100% the guard's fault. The guard got ran over. He has to hold his guard. He has to get inside in that gap, because you see that the line was shifting that way. That's the way that the long snapper went, was to open that gap. He's not supposed to look the other way there. So you have that situation, and it's just a whole, a huge win for the Eagles over the Rams there off that crazy play. You have the Jets one where a lot of people argued because they didn't know if you were allowed to jump over that guy. That Jets one was absolutely crazy because you end up in that situation with the Jets, and they just set up Baker to look like Baker again. That was absolutely unreal, with Baker going, just doing Baker things. I went on the rant last week, and it's so impressive out of Baker Mayfield that time and time again that he's become this guy. In Cleveland, I guess argued. Many people say that he struggled in Cleveland. I wouldn't call it struggling when you win a playoff game there in Cleveland. I would not call it struggling that Baker did there in Cleveland, but many people say Baker struggled in Cleveland. Then you have that little stint in Carolina where it's, oh no, there's the picture of him playing like D-end or something for the scout team because that just wasn't the right spot. Then he lands here in Tampa post Tom Brady, and it's just such a match made in heaven. And he's established himself as this guy of this Mr. Clutch, and it's so unbelievable that if Baker can win the game within 2 minutes, it's done. It's done. If Baker can get the game done, it's done. And he drives down the field against the New York Jets, and he gets a big win against the New York Jets and gets them to get that game-winning field goal after getting blocked earlier, and he just does it time and time again. He did it the week before against Houston. It's just time and time again we see Baker Mayfield go through this and get those 2-minute drives and win when he needs to win and get these close wins. I predicted them to be very well this year for that exact reason. I saw it last year in Baker Mayfield, that this team is a lot better than people think. Sadly, you get the Mike Evans injury down there in Tampa, but you have Emeka Egbuka who's absolutely unreal. I think he's Rookie of the Year. Man, shout out Baker, man. I agree with you, Joe. It is typical Browns to get rid of their 100%. Best quarterback in 20 years the Browns got rid of. 100%. Their best quarterback in the past 20 years. They just shipped him off. Add it down. Let him walk. Right after he wins a playoff game in Pittsburgh. Which I've said this before on my show. For those of you who don't understand because you're not, that in tune with rivalries in football and this and that. If you're a Jets fan, that's like you drafting a quarterback and him winning a playoff game in New England. Or if you're a Giants fan, that's like you getting a quarterback and him winning a playoff game in Philadelphia. That's like if you're a Packers fan, you getting a rookie quarterback after being bad for a while and him winning a playoff game after the Bears have been good for a while. Or flip that. If the Bears drafted Caleb Williams and he walked into Dallas, or he walked into Lambeau, and won a playoff game there. Like, Cleveland winning a playoff game in Pittsburgh is a huge deal between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They hate each other. So for the Browns to let that guy walk is so baffling. And then you just see the way that his career has developed, and he's become this guy down there in Tampa that, like I said, has just been unstoppable, is this Mr. Clutch type of dude, and really has what people say. I wouldn't say, like I said, I wouldn't say reinvented his career. It's a comeback. I think it was just a swing and a miss by two bad franchises in Carolina and Cleveland when they had a guy who was going to be the guy. It's a crazy, crazy thing. And then what was the other blocked field goal? Yeah, like I said, you have the Cleveland one, which was crazy against the Packers. I won't get into that. But what I will say about the Packers, just because it was brought up in the chat over here before, instead of going in on that, I'll bring up next week too, because that's a big one. I can't wait for that game. Oh my God, I can't wait for that game, man. That Dallas Green Bay game is going to be absolutely unreal. I can't wait to see that, Oh, I do remember that Rams win on 2 days' notice. He was brought in as a backup for the Rams after that Matt Stafford injury and won. That was crazy. That was the moment where it all clicked, I think, for a lot of people, and that's why he went to Tampa. That's why Tampa Bay wanted him that offseason. But back to what I was just about to say, that Packers Cowboys game this week is going to be game of the week, man. I think all eyes have to be over there, because I think this is like, it's weird, because as much as the Cowboys need this, the Packers don't. Like, the Packers shouldn't care about winning this game. Like, the Packers should care about winning this game just as much as they do any other game. But like, this is almost a must-win for the Dallas Cowboys. At a 1-2 after making after trading Micah Parsons away, this game for the Dallas Cowboys is going to be huge, man. Possibly no CeeDee Lamb as well. Your defense is going to have to play well against a Packers offense that struggled against they struggled against the Browns last week. Don't get me wrong, the Browns right now probably have the best defense in the league, or if not one of the best defenses in the league. They have the best defensive player in the league in Myles Garrett, someone who's been the best defensive player in the league since the day that Aaron Donald retired. It's been Myles Garrett as the best defense player in the league. If not him, TJ Watt. But another name up there has been Micah Parsons, who was just traded between these two teams. Kenny Clark, I don't know if he's active this week. We'll get those reports later. That would be an interesting point, too, to see how he plays. But what Micah might be able to do against the Dallas Cowboys is going to be absolutely scary. I mean, absolutely scary. I mean, I might bet for Micah Parsons to have 3 sacks this week. Watch out for him to have 5 tackles, solo tackles. What he might do to this Dallas O-line that's been struggling is going to be absolutely amazing. What this Packers offense is going to be able to do to a Dallas defense that's been Swiss cheese, that let Caleb Williams look like an all-star against him, that let Russ throw for 450 against him. They've been absolutely ripping it apart against this Dallas defense. This Dallas defense has been absolutely terrible. Trayvon Diggs looks like burnt toast. Kaiir Elam looks like burnt toast. Deron Bland can't get a turnover anymore to save his life. This Dallas defense has struggled so much. So I cannot wait to see what happens this week in Dallas with Micah Parsons and all that. I really can't. It's going to be so good. It's a Dallas offense. I don't know. It's obviously the game to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? It's obviously the game I'm going to look forward to. I don't know. I mean, last week was fun. Just to run through last week. I'm not really going to get into last week because it is Wednesday. I mean, you have that crazy Monday game. I do want to talk about that a lot with the Lions. Or not a lot, but I want to talk about that a little bit with the Lions and all of that. You have that crazy game. You know, the Lions get a big win against the Ravens. You have Derrick Henry fumbling to lose again, which is crazy. The Lions get 7 sacks. Hutchinson plays amazing. The offense looks good. They look like they're getting back in rhythm after they struggled in week 1 against a Packers defense that we now know is very good this year. But the Lions struggled in week 1, and then they put up 54 against, I mean, yeah, it's the Bears, but it's still a 50 burger in the NFL. That's still crazy to do. You know what I mean? That's still crazy to do. You know, you have David Montgomery rushing for $157 against the Ravens defense that's been struggling this year. I think that's something to look at this week. Speaking of the Ravens, you know, they play Kansas City this week, the Ravens. You have Kansas City this week if you're Baltimore. That's a game that eyes are going to be on as well, just as much as eyes are going to be on the Micah versus Dallas game for the whole reasons of the trade and that whole reason. There's 100% going to be eyes on this Kansas City-Baltimore game for exact opposite reasons. Two teams that last year were very good. Not just very good, but like top of the line. You know, the Chiefs obviously were going for a three-peat. Everybody knows what the Chiefs were doing. They were going for a three-peat. They were trying to do what no team has done before. And not only that, you have the Ravens, who were very good last year. You have Lamar MVP. You have an offense that is still clicking. Don't get me wrong. The Baltimore offense is still clicking very well so far this year. But the defense has been struggling. So the question remains for a lot of people, and you guys, you know, in the chat, you guys in the comments later can 100% let me know how you guys feel. But you have this whole situation here where, you know, with these two powerhouses, who are you concerned about more? Are you concerned about Ravens and this defense and the lack of help for Lamar outside of Derrick Henry, where the receivers aren't playing their best every night? The defense is not playing well at all. They are getting ran over time and time again. They just can't stop the run for the life of them in Baltimore under Chuck Pagano this year, who just got hired there in Baltimore and is struggling in his first year as the Baltimore defensive coordinator. And then on the flip side for Kansas City, you have You know, Pat Mahomes doesn't look like Pat Mahomes. You don't feel this same Chiefs magic. You have Travis Kelce and Andy Reid yelling at each other on the sideline with whatever that whole skerfuffle is and that whole debacle is. So it's a fun situation, or not a fun situation, but that's going to be a game that all eyes are going to be on, man, where you have these two teams that are falling to 1-2. If you fall to 1-3, you have, according to the last, 100 years or so, or like X amount of years that the NFL has exist, when you fall to 1-3, you have less than an 11% chance of making the playoffs. I think the percentage exactly is a 10.6% chance of making the playoffs after falling to 1-3, and both these teams going to the matchup at 1-2. So one of these teams is gonna one of these teams' path is only gonna get harder. And is it the Chiefs? Is this dynasty possibly over after they fall apart in a game against the Eagles? Is that where we've seen this Chiefs dynasty crumble? Or on the flip side, is Baltimore going to have to rework what they're going to do if they want to get over the hill? That's the big question between these two teams. That's the big question going into week 4. And week 4 is going to be fun. We got a lot of fun games. We got an Ireland game between the Vikings and the Steelers. We got a lot of fun games this week. Like I said, we got the darts first time starting. We have that battle. If I pull it up on my computer, I had the schedule up real quick. You got a lot of fun games here. Like I said, Patriots, Panthers is interesting. Eagles, Buccaneers, one of those teams is going to get their first loss. Jaguars, Niners it could be a good one. Packers, Cowboys, like I said, who can't wait for that one? You have Jets, Dolphins Monday night. Bengals, Broncos, that one's not great. But nonetheless, you have some great matchups in week 4. I can't wait for this week 4. All eyes are on Micah and the Packers. All eyes, I think, are on those two big games. I think those are the two biggest games of the week. Are Micah and the Packers against the Dallas Cowboys and that Chiefs-Ravens game. To see how those go will be so fun and so interesting. I want to move on from football, though, because I do want to talk about this. As you see, over one of my shoulders, over my right shoulder right here, there's a very beautiful jersey. Because the New York Yankees did clinch last night, my friends. The New York Yankees have clinched a playoff spot this season. They've done it. In a 3-2 win last night against the Chicago White Sox. Not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless. The Yankees clinched their playoff spot. We saw a lot of fun. We saw Dominguez, my man, Jason Dominguez. He knows how to party, man. I don't know if anybody saw the picture of my man, Jason Dominguez. I don't know if anybody saw my man right there, but there was a picture of him with 2 Budweisers in his hands. He had the champagne ski goggles on, and then had 2 in his ears like antennas. That man knows how to party. Shout out, he may or may not be the youngest guy on our roster. Who knows? He's only 24, but hey, he knows how to party. Shout out Jason Dominguez. Shout out the Yankees. I'm very happy that they clinched a playoff spot, but Yankees fans, the words of Aaron Boone are ringing true. As much as many of us don't like the man, it's right in front of us. It's right in front of us. It's right there. Whatever hand motion he did, it's right there. It's right in front of us. You're a game back. They're struggling right now, Toronto. You are a game back of Toronto. You have 2 games against the White Sox and the Orioles, who are not playing very well. You have it right in front of you. They're playing Boston. They're against Crochet tonight and Brian Bello tomorrow. Or Bayo, however you pronounce it. I apologize. Brian Bayo tomorrow. They're playing 2 of the best pitchers in the league. In the American League over these next 2 days. You are a game back of the division. You have a chance to win the AL East right now with 5 games left. Something that not a lot of us thought we could do. We were struggling so much through September and August like the Yankees always do. You started to pick it up when you needed to. You got your playoff spot, and I'm happy you did. And I know I see it, Dad Champagne, really. It's just modern sports. You're always going to celebrate winning the division. They always do. But the Yankees did what they needed to do, and they clinched. They got a big win, and everything is right in front of you right now if you're the New York Yankees to try to win this division against the Toronto Blue Jays. You have Fried and Rodon for the last time of the season tonight. Those are 2 games that you need to win. You have your aces tonight and tomorrow. You need to win those games before the playoffs start. If the playoffs start today, you're playing Boston, and then you have to go to Toronto. If the seeding stays the way it is, hypothetically, if the seeding stays the way it is, you have to play Boston, then you have to play Toronto, 2 teams that you have struggled immensely against this year. You have a chance to avoid one of those teams and make them play each other. If you could just win 4 of these last 5 games. I know it's not easy. I know it's so easy coming out of my mouth to say win 4 out of your last 5 to end the year. But if you could go on a 4 out of 5 run, this division is right there, man. This division is right there. They play 2 AL East teams. You know, maybe the Rays feel good. Maybe the Rays want to help us out, too, because we gave them a stadium for a year. So the Rays hopefully are going to try to help us out and beat them in their 3-game series after they play Boston. Boston wants to win because Boston doesn't want to fall out and fall into playing Cleveland. They would rather play us. Boston would 110% rather play us with the way that they've played all year. So you need to win now if you're the Yankees. And you have it right in front of you. As Boone has said, it's right in front of you for the taking. Take it now while you can. The pieces are there. I've been saying it since August. The pieces have been there. The pitching is struggling. You know what I mean? You're switching Volpe out with Caballero, which is giving us the balance defensively with Caballero playing short that we've needed. It's starting to click. Yes, the relieving pitcher still has to get better. Yes, Will Warren has to play better on the road. A lot of that has to click more. But for the New York Yankees, it's right in front of you, man. It's right in front of you for the New York Yankees. You're in a perfect spot. There's no more to go. You're in the home stretch. You're in the last mile. You're in the end of it right here. Right before playoffs start. Right before October starts. You know what I mean? You have the MVP of the league. And don't argue with me that it's Cal Raleigh. Don't try to do it. Don't try to sit here and argue with me that it's Cal Raleigh. The MVP of the goddamn league's Aaron Judge. He's a back-to-back MVP. Watch it. There's no other option, in my opinion, for an AL MVP that misses 10 games and still leads the AL in every stat besides home runs. And is 4 behind Cal? He's going to break 50 again. That man's ridiculous. Now he has to step it up in the playoffs, and we need to go on a run there. But what you have right now in front of you for the New York Yankees is an opportunity to win the division. The Blue Jays play 2 against the Red Sox. They play tonight. They play tomorrow. Then they play 3 against Tampa Bay. We got 2 against Chicago, the White Sox, tonight and tomorrow. Then we play 3 at home against Baltimore, who's not very good. They play 5 games just like we do. We play 5 games against worse teams than they're playing on those 5 days. The opportunity is now or never, obviously. There's no more, but you could pick it up maybe in this time. Oh, maybe you could sneak it in. No. This is your sneaking it in at the end of the year. This is the time. This is it. That's it. You know what I mean? Look on the other side. You could be the other side. The other side's an embarrassment. The other side is having the biggest fall apart in their history since the 70s. And they told us they were Big Brother. You know what I mean? The other side told us they were Big Brother because they got Juan Soto. And they might miss the playoffs. We could be there. You're not there. You're going to pick it up, and you're going to be the New York Yankees is what you're going to be. And you're going to go win these 5 games after 2 nice wins tonight behind your 2 aces that you have in your rotation, behind Fried, who's played exceptional, behind Rodon, who's had a great second half of the season. You're going to pick that up, and you're not going to fall apart like you're the Mets. You're not going to do what the Mets do and fall apart, which we're watching them do again, and them falling out of the playoffs like we're watching them do again. No. You're going to pick it up, and you're going to be the Yankees. You're going to win 5 games and win your division. That's what I need out of this team. That's what I need. Nothing more, nothing less. That's it. That's it, man. That's what I need out of this team. Because like I said, you could be the Mets. Mets are falling apart, man. The Mets are absolutely falling apart. You know what I mean? I'm pulling up the wild card real quick so I could check it. Because yesterday they were, they're in it right now. They're a game ahead, so good for them. You know what I mean? But they're struggling, man. They're struggling. We can't do that. We cannot do that. We cannot do that as the Yankees. But, man, this is going to be a fun week. Like I said, you got the 5 last games of the Yankees as they try to win the division. You got a huge week 4 with a lot of revenge games, big games. You know what I mean? Chiefs, Ravens, what's happening there? Micah going back to Dallas. So much going on. Dart's first start. It's going to be such a fun week. You know, how do the Ravens bounce back? How do the Lions continue their success? All of that. I cannot wait to watch the rest of this week, but that is all I got for you guys today. I know a little bit, not as long as an episode, but, I think the major news was Dart. I think I needed to talk about Dart for most of it. That's where I wanted to really talk about. You know, it's Wednesday. I had moved on from last week really fast as soon as the Dart news came out, and I wanted to talk about week 4. I wanted to talk about Micah versus the Packers. As much as I did want to talk about the Monday night game, I wanted to talk about Chiefs-Ravens. I wanted to talk about all that. Those are the topics. Not only that, I wanted to talk about the Yankees because the Yankees have it right in front of us. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everybody who tunes in afterwards on the YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe, do everything. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the places over there at The Log Show. Sometimes it's at The Log Show _. You'll see the logo. You'll know it. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Check it out. Clips will be posted, all of that. But that is all I got for you guys today. I will see everybody next week. Peace out.